In an unprecedented move, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has sent shockwaves through the West Philippine Sea by ordering the arrest of 2 Chinese research vessels operating in Philippine waters. These ships, reportedly mapping the area under suspicious pretenses, have sparked yet another flashpoint in the ongoing maritime dispute. With the Philippines drawing a hard line against Beijing's persistent intrusions, this bold directive marks a turning point in asserting sovereignty over its territory. Is this the beginning of a new era in Philippine maritime defense, or a move that could ignite an international standoff? Stay tuned as we dive deep into the implications of this decisive action. Will this bold move by the Philippines spark a wider conflict, or will it serve as a line in the sand, deterring further Chinese encroachment? The next steps taken by both nations will be crucial. The answer to this question has profound implications for the future of the South China Sea and the stability of the entire region. The world waits, hoping for a peaceful resolution to this complex and dangerous situation. The Philippine government accused the Chinese vessels of conducting research activities within its exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, without permission. This accusation was based on evidence gathered by the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard, who had been monitoring the activities of these vessels for several weeks. This act, a violation of the Philippines' sovereign rights, triggered a swift and decisive response from Manila. The Philippine government immediately issued a formal protest and mobilized its naval forces to intercept the Chinese ships. President Marcos, known for his measured approach to foreign policy, took a calculated risk, demonstrating his administration's commitment to defending Philippine sovereignty. He convened an emergency meeting with his top military and diplomatic advisors to address the situation. The arrest of the Chinese vessels was not an isolated incident. It was part of a broader strategy to assert the Philippines' rights in the contested waters of the South China Sea. It followed a pattern of increasingly assertive actions by China in the South China Sea, including the harassment of Philippine fishing vessels, which had been a source of tension for years. The construction of artificial islands, which China has used to bolster its territorial claims and establish military outposts, and the deployment of Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels, which have been increasingly active in the region, often clashing with vessels from other nations. This latest incident, however, marked a turning point. It was a clear signal that the Philippines was no longer willing to tolerate China's aggressive actions. It signaled a new willingness on the part of the Philippines to challenge Chinese actions directly and enforce its maritime claims. This bold move was seen as a significant shift in the region's power dynamics. The move was met with a mix of apprehension and approval from the international community, with some nations praising the Philippines' resolve while others urged restraint. The incident quickly became a focal point in international diplomatic discussions. The detention of the Chinese vessels set the stage for a diplomatic standoff between the two nations. Both sides began to prepare for high-stakes negotiations. The world watched closely, eager to see how China, a rising superpower, would respond to this challenge to its authority in the region. The outcome of this standoff could have far-reaching implications for the balance of power in Asia. The incident began on date when the 2 Chinese research vessels, the name of Ship 1 and the name of Ship 2, were detected operating approximately number nautical miles off the coast of Philippine Island within the Philippines' EEZ. The vessels were tracked by the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard, who monitored their movements and activities closely. According to Philippine authorities, the Chinese vessels were engaged in unauthorized marine scientific research, including seabed mapping and resource exploration. These activities, conducted without the consent of the Philippine government, were deemed a violation of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which governs maritime zones and the rights of coastal states. Despite repeated warnings from the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard, the Chinese vessels refused to alter course or cease their activities. This blatant disregard for Philippine sovereignty prompted President Marcos to order their arrest. The operation, carried out swiftly and professionally by the Philippine Navy, sent a clear message that the Philippines would no longer tolerate infringements upon its maritime domain. President Marcos's decision to order the arrest of the Chinese vessels was grounded in international law, specifically UNCLOS, which stands for the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This treaty, ratified by both the Philippines and China, provides the legal framework for maritime claims and activities, ensuring that all signatory nations adhere to a common set of rules and guidelines. Under UNCLOS, coastal states have sovereign rights over their exclusive economic zones, or EEZs, for the purpose of exploring and exploiting natural resources, including marine life, minerals, and energy resources. These zones extend up to 200 nautical miles from the coast. The Philippines argued that the Chinese research vessels, by conducting unauthorized research activities within its EEZ, were in clear violation of UNCLOS and Philippine domestic law. This unauthorized activity was seen as a direct challenge to Philippine sovereignty. The Philippine government also cited its 2016 victory at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, which invalidated China's expansive nine-line claim over most of the South China Sea. This landmark ruling was a significant boost to the Philippines' legal standing. China, however, rejected the Philippines' claims, asserting that the research vessels were operating within its historical waters. Beijing's stance has always been firm on this matter. Beijing has long maintained that it has indisputable sovereignty over the South China Sea, based on historical claims dating back centuries. These claims are rooted in ancient maps and records. This stance, however, is not supported by UNCLOS or international law, which prioritize contemporary legal frameworks over historical assertions. The legal battle over the Chinese research vessels highlighted the complex and often contradictory interpretations of maritime law in the South China Sea. It showcased the ongoing struggle between historical claims and modern legal standards. It also underscored the challenges faced by smaller nations, like the Philippines, in asserting their rights against larger, more powerful neighbors. The situation remains a delicate balance of diplomacy, legal action, and maritime enforcement. The Philippine Navy swiftly mobilized its forces, demonstrating a resolute commitment to defending its territorial waters. With a series of strategic maneuvers, they aimed to deter any further incursions. Their response was not just a show of strength, but a clear message to the world. The Philippines would not stand idly by. In response to the Philippine Navy's actions, China issued a stern warning, reiterating its claims over the disputed waters. Meanwhile, the international community watched closely. Allies of the Philippines voiced their support, urging for a peaceful resolution, while global powers expressed concern over the escalating tensions. The situation had now become a focal point of international diplomacy. Now the question arises, should we escalate the situation or focus on deterrence? This dilemma has plagued policymakers for decades. Escalation could lead to unforeseen consequences, while deterrence might be perceived as a sign of weakness. It's a delicate balance that requires careful consideration and strategic foresight. Let's delve into Marcos's strategy in the West Philippine Sea. His approach has been both assertive and cautious, navigating the complex geopolitical landscape with a blend of diplomacy and resolve. By strengthening alliances and enhancing maritime capabilities, Marcos aims to protect national interests without provoking unnecessary conflict. We are now venturing into uncharted waters, exploring the unknown. The global maritime landscape is evolving, with new challenges and opportunities on the horizon. From technological advancements to shifting alliances, the dynamics are constantly changing. Navigating these uncharted waters requires adaptability, innovation, and a keen understanding of the geopolitical currents. As we conclude our exploration, it's clear that the stakes are high and the path forward is fraught with challenges. But with informed decision-making and strategic planning, we can navigate these complexities. We encourage you to stay informed, engage in dialogue, and contribute to shaping a secure and prosperous future. Thank you for joining us on